Good afternoon, sir.
Take your chair.
Thank you, sir.
Mudita Agrawal.
Yes, sir.
Just give us a brief introduction of yourself.
Sir, my name is Mudita Agarwal and I have been born and brought up in Lucknow. I did my BSc Honours in Computer Science from Indraprasth College for Women. Thereafter, I did my MBA from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. And then I worked as a marketing manager with Tata Steel. And then thereafter, I have been preparing for the civil services, sir.
Okay. Is your first attempt or you've already done it before?
So this is my second interview and overall fourth attempt, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mudita, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
You are still working with Tata Steel?
No, sir, I left my job in 2021.
Or you have left the job?
Yes, sir.
So how was your experience? Why did you leave? Because you have written it was permanent job.
Yes, sir.
Why did you leave?
So I could not manage my studies with the job. I gave one attempt in 2021, but I found I could not manage both together, and hence I left my job, sir.
Okay. So that is fine. So sociology was your option.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain the difference in Indian society and US society sociologically?
So some differences which come to my mind are firstly Indian society, there are more differences based on things like caste, whereas in US is a more class-based society. And in US there is more freedom of thought expression, whereas in India we do have certain restrictions which may be legal or social as well. In terms of respect for elders or things like that, India is much more focused on these things as compared to the US society, sir.
How is the family system, family structure in India and US?
For as far as family structure is concerned in India, institutions like marriage, for example, although we are moving towards nuclearization, we still have joint families here. But in US, we have more nuclear families, maybe even single mothers there. So in terms of family structure also, we are different, sir.
US has been a country of aspirants, like people have migrated from Europe earlier and they have settled there. And later Asia, like India and China, they have gone and settled. So US doesn't have its own kind of social growth. So how does that affect US society? Is this very disconnected society?
Okay, so as you said, US is a country of immigrants. So people from all over the world have settled there. So it does not have a culture or a particular social structure of its own, but the diversity which it has. So that values certain specific traits in people, for example, entrepreneurship or hard work there, which is much more respected in US among other countries, sir.
Okay, all right. Now, as on date, what are the major problems in India? What kind of problems? Internal security problem, I would like to ask.
So one would be terrorism, cross-border terrorism, especially in Jammu and Kashmir. And apart from that, Naxalism in central India. And also the cyber security aspect is gaining ground in different states and union territories, sir.
The Home Minister had given the statement that Naxalism is on its way out, but recently there was a major incident. So what is your opinion on that? How long it will take for Naxalism to be rooted out?
So while Naxalism in India is on decline, there have been reduced instances of Naxalism. The areas which were earlier affected, that has reduced. But we still see killings and encounters in those parts. So as to specific timeline, I'm not sure if I can give, but yes, it's on decline and we'll need a combination of both military and development initiatives to root it out.
What is the problem of illegal immigrants in India presently? How many, can you guess how many illegal immigrants may be there? Who in the first place are illegal immigrants? Please define that too.
So illegal immigrants would be those who crossed Indian borders without relevant documents which were needed. As to estimations, sir, I'm unable to provide
No,
one.
but there have been statements by the Home Ministry in Parliament also, present ministry and earlier ministry also. So statements have been made. You are not aware of those
Sorry,
data.
sir.
So what is the solution? Roughly, like as per the present government Home Ministry statement, the estimate was roughly 2 crore from 2 crore Bangladeshis and roughly a lakh of Rohingyas. But then it was with the qualification that it is not possible to have a correct estimate because there is still the movement, no, like it is done stealthily and their agents to prepare them, their documents and to facilitate their immigration. So now India is also not a very highly developed country. Financial problem is there. Can India afford to have all these 2 crore or maybe it could be 3 or 5 crores?
So as India itself is a developing country, we may not be able to afford the external burden of illegal immigrants because for some, in terms of resources, for example, housing, water, sanitation, and also bringing in illegal immigrants, the cost of labor might go down, which might impact our own native labor, sir.
Are you aware of the Supreme Court recent judgment on Bangladesh immigrants? That means there has been long pending demand following Assam Accord to deport them. Supreme Court has given some judgment in November 24.
Sorry, sir, I'll have to read up on that.
They have given the judgment that they should be detected, detained and deported. So has the Home Ministry issued some kind of guideline for this process, detection, detention and deportation?
So I'm not
You're
aware
not
of this.
aware.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You please take care of these issues because
Yes, sir,
these
I'll
are
read on
important.
these. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very good afternoon to you, Mudita.
Good afternoon, sir.
First of all, let me congratulate for your wonderful sari that you are wearing.
Thank you.
What
sir.
material is it?
So it's Kota Doria.
Kotaroya. And what is the motive? Does it have any significance?
Sir, I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Second thing I find from your DF that you have chosen to retain your surname while your parents don't use it. Any reason behind that?
So my mother was Agarwal before marriage. So and my father is also an Agarwal, but his father used to write Das. So while we were in school, he got me and my brother's name written as Agarwal.
Can I suggest you just sit your back? Yeah, right.
Yes, sir.
Not leaning forward. Your father is serving DIG, isn't that?
So he retired in
Retired.
2015.
Now, what do you think? You must have seen the police life from very close quarters. What reforms do you think can be made in police services?
So one can be reduced political interference in transfers and postings. Other could be lessening the burden on the police service. For example, as per some estimates, they work 14 hours a day. So that is a lot.
What about strenuous workload on policemen at the lower level?
Yes, sir. So
Police constables,
yes, sir.
SIs, ASIs. And sometimes, I won't say it is very common, but sometimes misuse of these policemen by higher officers. How do you think it should be curtailed?
So the misuse of policemen by.
Like taking kids to school, back,
Okay.
having purchasing vegetables, etc.
Okay, sir. So maybe there can be a fixed duties for each person who is employed in the police service. And if any such thing is happening, then there might be channels for communication and complaints in such cases.
Okay, you had studied in the famous city Montessori school.
Yes, sir.
And I see that, you did there. And, well, you appeared for interview twice.
Yes, sir.
Last time, how many marks did you get?
So 193.
193, very good. So that means you lagged behind in written.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully you have done it better this time.
Yes, sir. I hope so.
Okay. Now, recently President-elect Donald Trump was again in news for bad reasons on Gulf of Mexico, Canada, Panama and Greenland.
Yes, sir.
What did he say, and whatever he said, is it feasible? Be short.
Okay, sir, as to the feasibility of his threats of acquiring certain territories, it has happened in the past with US buying out certain territories, but with increased focus on national sovereignty in these areas, it might be difficult. The takeover might be hostile if Trump wants to go ahead with it, but it also might be a strategy of negotiation on Trump's
When
part.
was last time when USA included one country, or USA bought some property?
So,
From where?
yes, it was the USA Virgin Islands now, and it acquired it from Spain.
Okay. Okay, now one more thing. Have you heard of grooming gang?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
So it's believed to be a group of Pakistani origin British men who used to lure in British girl teenagers and then groom them into
Okay.
for sexual harassment. Sir.
In institutions of higher education, there has been a problem of ragging of juniors. What is the cause of this thing? What is the cause of ragging? What goes, according to you, what goes in the mind of the students who prefer to rag or who enjoy ragging?
So I believe it's also a cycle of ragging, firstly because they themselves might have been ragged. So they believe that what they are doing is justified. So firstly that. And then also the consequences. If there are no consequences, then people won't fear ragging others.
Have you heard about SPEDX?
Yes, sir.
What is that? And what is the current situation on it?
So it's the ISRO space docking mission. So for future space experiments, they are trying to launch 2 satellites in space and then dock them together.
They are trying to?
So I think in today's, they have
They
scheduled
had
it.
already launched on 30th
Yes, sir.
December.
Yes, sir.
What is the current situation?
So it's being delayed, the docking part in space, but I believe they are going to do it in the next few
It
days.
is going to be docked today, hopefully, because
Yes, sir.
it had drifted. One of the
Yes, sir.
satellites had drifted and now it had been brought back. Now, one more thing which surprises me, that despite being the daughter of a police officer and seeing police from very close quarters, you have given IPS your third choice, not second. Generally, they give second choice to IPS nowadays. Why?
Sir, I believe the Indian Foreign Service provides a lot more diversity, and having traveled to other parts of the world, I believe, especially with growing congruence between foreign policy and domestic affairs, I believe there'll be a lot more scope in Indian Foreign Service going ahead, sir.
Okay, coming to foreign policy, people say that with Maldives, last year Maldives going away from us, this year Bangladesh, is it a failure of our foreign policy?
So personally, I don't believe it's a failure of a foreign policy because these incidents happen because of internal politics in those respective countries, sir. So I don't believe it's a failure on our part.
Okay, very good. That's all from my side.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mudita.
Good morning, sir.
You have done foreign trade, right? In Indian Institute of Foreign Trade.
Yes, sir.
So tell me something about these free trade agreements that we are now entering into. So which are can you list a few of them?
So some which we have entered into recently include one with the UAE and one
Yeah.
with Australia.
Right.
And we are also in talks, the one with EFTA is going to be implemented soon.
Yeah.
And apart from that, we are also in talks with the European Union for further FTA.
Yeah. Now with these 4 countries EFTA, which we got into, which are those 4 countries?
So it's Norway, Iceland, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
So what is unique about this EFTA agreement with these countries, 4 countries? It is different from the other.
Yes, so in as far as I recall, in this FTA, they have promised investments of around
Yeah.
1 billion in India
Yeah.
over a period of 15 years.
Right.
So that's something different from other FTAs.
So is it feasible to link trade and investment like this in terms of having a deliverable?
So while India needs investments in
Yeah.
those particular sectors, which they have mentioned, but the implementation will be difficult because even if in future they don't invest that particular amount, there are little remedies on our side which can be taken recourse to.
Right. Okay. RCEP, what would you say about RCEP? We didn't join RCEP in 2019. There was huge disappointment of many of our friendly partners. They were not happy.
Yes.
So what would you say to that?
So I believe while it was a difficult decision on India's part, but it was the right decision given certain hurdles. For example, the Chinese threat of import surge in India, Chinese unwillingness to open its own market to other countries, and also certain sensitive sectors like dairy agriculture. So they might have been flooded, and our native farmers and other people would have had to bear the cost, sir.
But RCEP kept the doors open for India. Anytime India wanted to join,
Yes,
they
sir.
they would welcome India's accession. So what would you say? Have you monitored RCEP's functioning?
So I have not monitored it, but given India is one of the largest markets, so that's why they're more than willing to induct India into this grouping, sir.
The countries of RCEP countries which signed are complaining about Chinese goods flooding their countries.
Yes, sir.
So then you are, as you have been discussing and telling us about your father being in the police service, and you had a varied career and you went into Tata Steel. Is it true that Tata's a job with Tata's is like a government job?
So to an extent, it might seem that because the kind of job security and working conditions, but personally, I believe that being a corporate job, so they also had their own rigor. For example, sometimes we had to work overtime, and the kind of innovation they are doing, so that's also different from a public job.
Right. So what can the private sector learn from the way government officers function? It's a reverse of the usual way of saying that. Yeah. So your father was you've grown up in that environment, and then you worked in Tata Steel. So what is there something that the private sector could learn?
So one could be maybe focus on more social issues, like some companies are doing that. And apart from that, resource management, since I believe the government sector works with much scarce resources as compared to the private sector at times in terms of budgeting. And maybe apart from that, the commitment of people who work in the public sector is much higher. In private sector, we see, especially in these days, more switching of jobs for personal reasons. So the focus is more on profit than the work they are doing, sir.
Would it be true to say that the government sector, there's a lack of resources or shortage of resources? If government doesn't have money, then who has money?
So the government is one of the largest spenders, but given the supply-demand gap, there is a lot of gap there, sir.
But don't you think if you're efficient in government about using resources, then you have a better chance if you maximize your the impact of your resources, then you might be very successful actually.
Yes, if the efficiency of those scarce resources is high, then the productivity will be higher.
Yeah, some of the most outstanding officers are who made a mark by using resources very efficiently. So there's a lot, I guess, for private sector to learn,
Yes, sir.
right? And you don't get rewarded
Yes,
the way that private sector perhaps. I don't know about Tata's, but
Yes, sir.
yeah. Last question, I think you have your interview very shortly. So
Yes, sir.
how do you see the Ukraine-Russia conflict, sort of evolving towards some kind of peace settlement? So what are the key issues which need to be addressed?
So I believe first would be bringing both the countries to the table for discussion. Since while India has been trying to bring them both together, but both the sides have, especially Ukraine, has refused to negotiate with Russia. So that will be one. And apart from that, the boundary issue, since both the countries have occupied some of their own other countries' territories. So that will be another. And with Trump coming and kind of vowing that he will put an end to this war, so we'll have to see what will be the steps of USA in this respect, sir.
But you left out the most key issue which was the cause of Russian so-called aggression.
Yes,
Have you left out one issue?
yes, sir. So it was the proposal of Ukraine joining NATO.
Right.
And Trump, in this respect, according to some statements, supports Russia in this. So that might, going forward, I think Russia might benefit from Trump 2.0 in this respect.
Right. Russia doesn't think much of, the USA doesn't think much of NATO, especially Trump administration, right?
Yes, sir.
And what about territory which Russia has occupied or taken charge of? What do the those associated with Trump administration think?
So as far as territories are concerned, I'm not aware of the views of Trump administration, but Russia has designated them as self-independent territories of Russia.
Yeah.
So I don't know going forward what will be the consequence of those
They
territories.
say that the Ukraine might have to give up territory. Those close to Trump have said that
Okay, sir.
they may have to give up this territory. Yes.
Okay,
So
sir.
why the war then? If NATO is also not available to Ukraine, and territory is also gone. So what is at the end of it? Why was the war launched in the first place? So it's a meaningless war, right?
Yes, on Ukraine's side, it turned out to be quite meaningless.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mudita, I want to ask you about theaterization. What is theaterization?
So, theaterization in military is establishing certain points where the Air Force, the Army, and the Naval Force, they work in tandem to increase efficiency and efficient resource management in that particular area.
But in all the wars that we've fought so far, they have worked in tandem. What is different about theaterization? How does this make any structural changes perhaps?
So perhaps in chain of command, that will be unified under theaterization. And apart from that, the resources, for example, earlier, the aircrafts, the Army has its own, the Air Force has its own. So that might be reduced. So we might have a more streamlined procurement. So that will be beneficial for the armed forces, sir.
Right. But do you foresee any problems with theaterization, any challenges?
So given the three forces have been operating independently, there might be certain obstacles in trying to make them work together. And apart from that, since we have no historical example in India at least, so going about it, there might be mistakes early on.
Oh, are you sure that we don't have any historical examples of theaterization?
So we have certain, like in Andaman, the nuclear command, but those are not exactly the high stakes in terms of the threat we face from the western and eastern part.
All right. Now coming to your experience as a marketing manager and the MBA you've done, and there was some conversation also about your experiences over there versus the government experience and a comparison there too. Now I want to ask you about something that Mr. Narayan Murthy said in the recent past. He said something about getting people from the MBA into the IAS and IPS, and he seems to think that that is a good idea. What do you think?
Sir, I believe while MBA graduates are generalists, which is also considered the domain of the civil services, but I also believe we need specialists as well. So people from other domains, for example, medical or financial, they all are equally important for our policy.
Yes, that would be very pertinent about lateral entry. But what about the MBAs coming into IAS, IPS? What is the argument against this movement? Why should they not be allowed? And why should you, who has already done an MBA, have a certification, not be allowed to just simply work in the IAS, IPS, perhaps for a few years? Why come through this route?
So personally, I wanted to do work in the corporate sector for some time so that I can get a glimpse of how the private sector works. So I did MBA for that to get a job afterwards.
Mr. Narayan Murthy, is he right or is he wrong then?
So while MBA graduates can come in civil services, but they should not be the only ones to come into IAS, IPS.
Okay.
We might have people from other domains as well.
Is there a fundamental difference between the way the government works and the way the private sector works?
So the private sector is more focused on profits, whereas government sector is more welfare oriented. And apart from that, the impact that the government has on the public is much larger as compared to the private sector.
All right. Speaking of impact and welfare, can you tell me something about the status of healthcare in India?
For example, in healthcare, while the government has introduced schemes like PM Ayush Bharat, which has increased the access of healthcare to various vulnerable sections, but the facilities, especially in rural areas, we still face shortage there. So we still have a long way to go.
Okay. Um, and how would you cover this long way? What would you actually do to improve things?
So maybe improve the conditions in which doctors work in these areas to incentivize them to go there. And apart from that, improving the facilities infrastructure in these areas so that once people go there, these areas are much more livable than they are currently in terms of the facilities there. And also communication in medical, that might help to reduce the gaps there.
There is this ethical debate in medical science, perhaps even in the legal sphere, about euthanasia. And it's a very complicated debate. If people have the right to live, then they should have the right to die in their own terms. What do you think about that?
So personally, I don't believe euthanasia should be made legal in general, at least not active euthanasia, because it might become a source of assisted suicide in that case, with people opting for it. In certain cases where the court process allows for it, it is being done in certain specific cases. So the current process is, I think, appropriate as it is being done, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mudita.
Thank you, sir.
You were asked about healthcare in India.
Yes, sir.
I have few questions on that.
Yes, sir.
You come from UP and you lived in Delhi also quite a bit. Can you compare the health parameters in terms of women healthcare or children healthcare, both UP and Delhi?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware of the exact.
I'm talking about
statistics.
infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, TFR, total fertility ratio, or institutional delivery, or immunization. Do you have any information about these parameters of the health? Because you generally said so much has to be done about healthcare.
Yes, sir.
But I'm talking about specifics.
So I'm not aware of the exact statistics especially for Delhi in these respects, sir.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you know what percentage of the budget is given to healthcare in India?
So I believe it's around 2 to 3%. 2 to 3%.
Okay. And what should be in the last budget? Are you sure?
Sorry, sir, may I?
And can you make a comparison with any of the developed countries?
So I'm not aware of the proportion of the budget
Okay,
which they
no
spend.
problems. You are a computer scientist.
Yes, sir.
If I call you a computer engineer, would you agree?
Since my degree was in BSc Honours Computer
How do you
Science.
distinguish between computer scientist and a computer engineer?
So personally, I believe computer engineer is someone who's more on the implementation side, while a scientist is more on the research part of things.
Are you sure?
So at least that's what I believe, sir.
Okay. You did international trade degree also from a very reputed institution, no? Can you compare the international trade of India and China? The scale.
So if scale is seen, then India forms around only maybe 2% of the international trade, whereas China has a share of around 9 to 10%. So scale-wise, China is much ahead of us. And also in terms of trade to GDP, India can do much better.
Have you heard about Sanskritization?
Yes.
What is it?
So Sanskritization was given by Mr. Srinivas. So he said that when it's a process where people from a certain lower caste adopt practices which are generally associated with those of upper caste, sir.
And what do the upper caste do in that case?
So he said that upper caste when they go for westernization, then people from lower caste find it much easier to go for Sanskritization, sir.
Okay. Have you read something about bureaucracy given by Max Weber?
Yes, sir.
What did you think about bureaucracy?
So he believes that bureaucracy, it's a hierarchical organization where the larger tasks are divided into smaller tasks and then different people are made responsible for each of them. And apart from that, he also considered it's based on rationality, a plain rationality without any emotions associated with it, sir.
Okay. My last question.
Yes, sir.
If you compare with the southern states, UP with such a huge population, economically is not that well off.
Yes.
What are the reasons and what could be done about it?
So some of the reasons which come to mind are firstly the historical law and order situation in UP, and apart from that, UP was a much more agriculture-focused state. So industries found it difficult to find skilled labor and set up industries there. But in the recent past, certain steps have been taken to correct this. So, for example, we are focusing more on infrastructure nowadays, and the government is coming out with various sector-specific policies, and it's also focusing on skilling the people of UP. So that might help going forward.
That's all from us.
Thank you, sir.
How did your interview go?
So I believe I could be a bit more louder I don't know if it came across like that.
Good.
Yeah, Mudita. So you are satisfied with this interview? You have done well. Actually, compared to last time when you scored 191, how was this?
So during that interview, there were a lot of questions because they asked, for example, I was from Tata Steel, so they asked very steel-specific questions like, what's the proportion of nickel or chromium, exact proportion of it. So there were many questions, like maybe around 7 to 8, which I could not answer. So.
Okay, so that is, no, your body posture is fine. I like contact, you are focusing only on the interviewer, so you should be addressing yourself to the full board. That is one thing.
Okay, sir.
And otherwise, knowledge you have prepared well, so you are a good candidate for this interview. It all matters on how you have done in your writing, like
yes,
written exam.
Yes, sir.
That is it. So, and you are interviewing only after 3 days, no?
Yes, sir.
So, therefore, now current affairs is the main thing, and just be now yourself.
Yes, sir.
Figure out what you have to do,
yes,
and be in a happy mood. That is what I have to advise.
Okay, sir.
Okay, compose yourself. You are very composed otherwise. Just
okay, sir.
all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Mudita, I am very happy to note that true to your name, you always present a very pleasant face.
Thank you, sir.
Countenance. So keep it up and just don't lean forward.
Yes, sir.
And as my colleague said, that you should address to all members of the board, have a glance at least.
Okay, sir.
You have been doing that at the latest stage in this interview, but earlier you started only focusing on the interviewer. Otherwise, your knowledge base is very good, and we wish you all the best for the interview, which is on 13th.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
You sort of left hanging. For instance, you said about Sanskritization. Sorry to interfere with his conversation, but you said about Sanskritization. You described it well, but I think it goes on to, it's a way of mobility in the caste system, right? Okay. It's the castes go up and down. You just said it, they adopt the ways of upper caste, and then you left it at that. Okay. It's in a supposedly very static society. It's a way that there is mobility, right? Yes, so I think you didn't complete that part. And the second, in my own line of questioning, I think you missed out the most important NATO, right?
Yes,
yeah, we know it. It's not that you don't know it, but the war started with I think the Ukraine's attempts to join NATO, right? So it's not started with the Russian occupation. Certainly not,
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's something that I don't want to overcoach, because you did well last time. You can only do better, But relax, and if you feel that there's a need to prepare something, you could write. You could list the important topic and write 2 lines so that you don't miss.
Okay.
Right, a card like a library card or index card,
Yes, sir.
Like for instance, Pakistan, should India initiate dialogue with Pakistan? External Affairs Jaishankar said actually the time for uninterrupted dialogue is over. Actions will have reactions or consequences, right? So that's the essence.
Yes,
Same way, like what are the issue Ukraine? It's It's Ukraine's wanting to join NATO and treatment of Russian minorities. Simple. There's a meat. If you miss the meat, then it's just a aimless conversation, right? So you could write, but don't. I leave it to you because you're very good and you're just few days away. So don't clutter your mind with too much. Okay. Just, otherwise, all the best. I think you could also Bangladesh, Pravasi Bharati, then Canada, then the Sankranti and other thing, around 13th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Lori, these kind of things. I think you will be quite effective and efficient in the handling that. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Mudita, it's good, and particularly your countenance, and it's a very good thing that you are able to maintain a smile even when you're answering factual questions. My only suggestion is sometimes the answers appear a little bit generic, which is okay. But if you are answering a factual question with an opinion, then you might want to qualify that
Okay.
right at the outset. So the expectation on the other side is set accordingly. But otherwise, I'm pretty sure that you'll do very well.
Okay, sir.
In fact, I'm quite impressed about your interview performance. You did very well. Only thing, you got to increase your information base about being a woman, being a UPI, being a Dilliwala, being a computer scientist, anything that you have in the DAF. You got to be a little more richer in information. Like when you talk about healthcare facilities, to the questions that has been put by others also, your responses were a little generic.
Yes, sir.
If you can load it with certain facts, certain information, I think that will be giving a better impression. Similarly, regarding education of women, healthcare of women, like health parameters and all, you're definitely going to be facing such kind of questions because you're going to be an administrator and coming from UP and Delhi. All the situation that you have in the current time, that you got to brush up a bit more.
Okay, so first.
Otherwise, your approach is very good. You got a pleasant personality and your communication skill is very good. Just load some information into it.
So, for example, those statistics, if for UP I have learned some, but for Delhi I'm not aware of those statistics. So, is it okay, or do I need to list them out for Delhi as well?
Not at this time, it will be a budget on low. So you are put generally whatever you can gather.
Okay, sir.
I think your preparation is good. Only thing, like few issues that I told you about.
Yes, sir.
Because being a woman, suppose somebody is asking about institutional delivery in UP village. You are supposed to be giving some opinion about it because you're going to be a district magistrate in Lucknow.
Yes. That is
So
right.
if there is no low immunization or high infant mortality rate or maternal mortality rate in UP, which is a fact, what do you have to do about it? So first of all, you have to know that the condition is not so good.
Yes, sir.
And then you got to think about it. What will you do?
Okay.
Why less institutional delivery in UP?
Okay, sir.
And when you say in healthcare, like you'll be motivating healthcare professionals to go to the villages and all. Biggest problem in healthcare today is you don't have sufficient number of doctors.
Yes.
Like if you expect 17,000 population to be having a doctor, the total doctor available in our country may not be sufficient to do that. Those are issues, intricate issues, because what may happen is the board members who are coming with 40, 50 years of experience in this field, they could trap you into those information gap. You get my point?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, your approach, your communication, your personality, perfect.
Just one more thing, if I may add.
Yeah, please.
Since you are from UP, your father was in police.
Yes, sir.
From Prayagraj, where Kumbh is
Yes, sir.
going to be organized.
Yes, sir.
So all these things, all these three dots connect. That means be prepared for answers on Kumbh.
Yes, sir.
Law and order situation, arrangements, etc. Some knowledge should be there, right?
Right,
Otherwise,
sir.
everything is okay. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
All the best. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Take
Thank
care.
you, sir.